What's up?
I'm waiting for a field to dial back in.
All right, you got my text about the test stream?
Yeah, I already killed that.
Okay, good. What's up, pro?
He's all right now.
No. You just have me in queue. You don't have me up yet, right?
Yeah.
No, all right. Woo. Did Phil already put Muschamp on YouTube, so you might be able to grab it off of there. I don't know what to
Yeah,
do.
we might have to start the show. Phil still ain't dial up.
All right. Well, you hear what I told you though about Muschamp?
Yeah, he's supposed to be sending them to me.
No, I said he already put Muschamp on YouTube, so I could send you the YouTube link on that, and you can pull it off of YouTube.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, let's go.
So I'll copy that and send that to you right now, so you at least have that for there. Does he not know what time it is?
I got Phil now.
Very good. Tell him he's got to get a video up too. Because that's the only way this is going to work.
Hey, we'll stand by if he drops out. Just listen for the quiet.
Gotcha. What do you mean? Is he burping?
He doesn't have a lot of faith in the signal he got.
Okay. It's supposed to be on his deal, I thought. I still don't see him on video. Do you see him? All right.
He's getting it up.
Cool.
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
We're going to have to do a great job of slowing them down, showing them different looks, just creating different ways to slow them down, especially Calvin Ridley, number 4, true freshman wide receiver. He's looked really good on tape as well. And, they just do a lot of good things with their skills. So we're just going to do a great job of slowing them down.
It's not a whole lot of difference being in the box on the sideline. Obviously, the box is a lot calmer environment. You're able to see things a lot better, from that standpoint and from an adjustment standpoint. But we've got people assigned on every snap where their eyes need to be as far as making sure we're getting the correct information about different looks that we're getting.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, on the road with the Gamecocks and the Tigers, and back in our comfortable studios in downtown Columbia. Phil Kornblut down in Tampa, Florida, where USC arrived today. Will Pelagic on his way to New Orleans, where the Clemson Tigers will arrive tomorrow, and the Professor Tom Hayes back in the studios in downtown Columbia. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Our email, talkback at sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, at SportsTalkSC. At SportsTalkSC is how you reach us there. Hope everybody had a great holiday. It's been a few days since we were last together. Going back to last Friday, we'll catch up on everything that we know. We'll hear from Will Muschamp tonight. We'll hear from USC AD Ray Tanner. Also from the Tigers, Ryan Carter. 1st and 10 with Zach Willis tonight as he breaks down the two bowl games of interest to us here on Sports Talk. I didn't want to mention that it was 73 degrees today here in Tampa. Little toasty for December 26th. But I'll take it. I'll take it over what you folks had back in Columbia, Pro. I hear it's a little bit nippy back in the Palmetto State.
Oh, it's nippy, but I think this time of year you want it. I put on some layers today, had the day off, and took a walk on the canal walk for about 3 miles. So I'm comfortable. I'm toasty now, ready for a good show tonight. But it was a good holiday, quick. Got enough of a dose of the family not to get in the way of family business.
Good move on your part, and I hope you enjoyed the holiday. Will's been on the road today, making his way down towards New Orleans, down to the Bayou. He'll be there tomorrow when the Tigers arrive in the afternoon at the airport. They'll have a big welcoming ceremony for the Sugar Bowl, the national semifinal playoff. You see any Tigers on your way down towards New Orleans?
I didn't see any Tigers, but the one thing that is a common thread, Phil, is the fact that not only do you have to go through Alabama to get to New Orleans, you have to go through Alabama to get to Atlanta, where the Tigers will be playing, at least in the semifinal game, to try and get to Atlanta for the college football national championship. No one has necessarily made it out, at least this early, to start, but we are certainly looking forward to meeting Clemson in New Orleans when they plan to arrive around 3:30 local time, which is about 4:30 Eastern. Clemson, as we've talked about over the course of the last couple of days, will practice in the morning Tuesday before settling into, or in the morning Wednesday, before settling into their digs at Tulane University, when they will be able to practice there for the next 3 or 4 days after that, leading up to the game site at the Superdome on January 1st.
Well, the Gamecocks arrived here this afternoon in Tampa, and they came to their hotel, which is the Westin Resort over on what's called Channel Side in Tampa, over by the Bay Area, where the big cruise ships go in and out of Tampa. Took his team out onto the practice field for a bit of what they call a run-through, not necessarily a walk-through, but a run-through, just to kind of get their legs back under them after being away for the holiday and after a plane ride down here. And they'll get into their normal practice schedule beginning tomorrow, practice schedule for the rest of the week. And as far as any new stuff from Muschamp, not a whole lot. Said that everybody who is healthy, coming off injuries, is healthy enough to play. Rico Dowdle might be the exception. There's still a little bit of concern about him. Not sure what his status for the game is going to be coming off that lower leg injury that he had. He is the only one that he named who would not be totally healthy among the ones who could play, who've been a little bit banged up. Said that Brian McClendon will be upstairs in the box calling the plays for the first time as the acting offensive coordinator. He'll be upstairs, not working from the sideline. You know, sometimes some OCs will be downstairs on the field, but they want him upstairs where he gets a good look at things and can send the plays into Bobby Bentley and others on the offensive side. And as far as the search for a permanent offensive coordinator, of course, McClendon is part of that search. Not much from Muschamp on that. Asked if he had talked seriously. The important word there is seriously. Had he talked seriously with the number of other candidates besides McClendon at this point? His response was multiple candidates he has talked to at this particular time. And everybody academically is fine. Everybody made it back from the Christmas break on time. Nobody was tardy, left behind, or anything like that. So from that standpoint, guys, it's all good. The Gamecocks are here to do some business. You know, they realize that they're facing the winningest team in the history of college football, 943 wins for Michigan. USC is sitting right on 600. Remember, they hit 600 when they beat Wofford. So they're looking for 601. Michigan's looking for 944. Significant difference there, of course. And for the Gamecocks, this would be a huge win for them. Even though they've won 2 out of 3 against Michigan, historically speaking, getting a win against a blue blood, powerful program like Michigan always looks good on the resume. Michigan's probably not looking at South Carolina guys, I would say, in the same light.
Well, I think this Michigan team has struggled, and they desperately need a win, in my opinion, because some people are now questioning the regime right now. Are they really serious about threatening for the Big Ten? They've made some baby steps, but still nowhere inside of Ohio State right now. For South Carolina, incremental steps. Everybody was surprised that they even won 6 games last year and was in that game into overtime against South Florida. Win 2 more games this year. They'd like to get that 9th win just to let those recruits know that we're making incremental steps to maybe threaten in the next year or 2 for an SEC East title.
And the thing about this, Pro, is the fact that when you look at these bowl games, you look at the way that things have gone for a lot of these teams, and it's all about motivation. I think the thing about this game that is paramount for South Carolina is you have to flush whatever bad feelings you had from the game against Clemson, and you have to recycle all the good emotion that you got from, road victories at Tennessee and some of the other momentum building victories you got later on in the season. Even the loss to Georgia, while it wasn't a victory, still provided South Carolina with a lot of positive stuff moving forward. And you need to build on that. You need to take some of what you learned over the course of these 15 practices and channel it in to take on a Michigan team. To be brutally honest, bro, I don't know how happy Michigan is to be in Tampa Bay. They can say all they want. I know that they probably had higher sights for themselves at the beginning of this season, whereas for South Carolina, they overachieved.
There's no doubt. And South Carolina, this is a big step, Will, as I said before, for South Carolina recruiting going forward, because if McClendon is successful in this, there's some serious thought, hey, keep everybody happy. These guys are 2 of my best recruiters with Bobby Bentley as quarterbacks coach. If this thing works out, it may be all to the good in the long run when you look at this situation.
All right, 800-956-7266 is our phone number here on Sports Talk. If you've gotten all the Christmas cheer out of your system and you're ready to get back into the serious business of sports, we are here, and we are here for the long run all week long from Tampa and from New Orleans all the way up until game day Monday. Big New Year's on Sports Talk Monday with the Gamecocks playing at noon, the Tigers playing probably around 9 o'clock at night. We'll have it all covered for you throughout the week and up through game day. If you want to join in, give us a shout. Back in a moment.
All right. It sounds very bad. Like, unairable bad. Like, you got to tell him to either cut his signal down or something. You there?
Yeah, I'm talking with.
You mean Phil?
Yeah.
It does not sound good. Like, you got to tell him it's like we're getting every other word. He's using T-Mobile. T-Mobile has good coverage in Tampa.
All right, well, we're going to go to Muschamp if we don't have any calls.
Okay.
He already sent me the
Right
audio.
away?
He actually emailed me the audio.
What'd you say?
He actually emailed me the
Oh, he's-
Muschamp audio, so we're going to go to him since we don't have any calls.
Cool. That's fine. Is he sounding better in the break or no?
Yeah.
He is?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. What did he do?
I don't know, just started sounding better. I guess he got a better signal.
Okay. For some reason, I mean, I don't know what I don't know if what I heard was what was going on the air, but I was not getting much of him at all. Was that what you were hearing?
No, he was going over the air. I got the radio playing next door. It was going all was going over.
It was? Well, I wasn't getting a lot of them then. Okay. Maybe it's just me then. Maybe it's just my my deal here. But I sounded good?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
It is the day after, the big day for a lot of people. A great day. Good to be with you. Phil Kornblut down in Florida. Will Pelagic, where are you? How far down the road did you make it towards New Orleans?
I am in an undisclosed location in the great state of Alabama. How about that?
Oh, okay. You just don't
I like
want
to keep it
hunted down and
mysterious.
say something negative about the Crimson Tide. You don't want them hunting you down.
Well, let me put it to you this way: I've seen equal parts blue and orange, and equal parts crimson and white where I am in Alabama. How about that?
Yeah. Kind of a mixed bag. Here in Tampa, it's one of those cities where it's hard to get a feel. It's a city that has a lot of transplants, a lot of New Yorkers. In fact, on the cable system here, one of the primary
What's wrong? What's wrong with all the New Yorkers? What's wrong with all New Yorkers, Corn?
Well, I think if you listen loyally to this program, I pointed out many times all the things that are wrong with New Yorkers. You want me to go back and reiterate?
You root for the freaking New York Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody on the team is from New York.
But the laundry's made there.
There's a South Carolinian on the team, okay? You got more South Carolinians on the team than native New Yorkers. All right.
Get out of here. That's
Anyway,
stupid.
as
That's
I
a
was
stupid
saying,
reason.
Tampa is a kind of a hodgepodge. I mean, you do have the Yankees spring training facility here. You do have the Bucks. You've got South Florida. You've got University of Tampa, which I rode by today, home of Freddie Solomon, the great Freddie Solomon, who played his college football at Tampa. Was fantastic at Tampa, that campus is located just across the river from downtown Tampa, a little small campus. In fact, a few years ago when South Carolina was on the field with Iowa in the Outback Bowl, they didn't actually play, South Carolina did. Iowa practiced at the University of Tampa, so I got a chance to go over there and see their stuff a little bit. So it's an interesting city. As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, one of the main channels on the cable system here at the Media Hotel is Spectrum One out of New York. So I can check out stuff up in the Big Apple while I am here. 800 and the Sugar Bowl, and how do you think those games are going to play out for the Gamecocks and the Tigers? Also, our poll question on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, which we put up the end of last week, and we'll let it ride for a little while. The state's player of the year in college football, a chance for you to vote on that. The state's player of the year. Right now, 41% of the voters have selected Sky Moore. 34, almost 35% have selected Kelly Bryant. I understand the voting falls along party lines here, but the nominees that I put on the list, and you can add your own names if you want: Jake Bentley, P.J. Blazejowski, Kelly Bryant, Anthony Ellis, Cleveland Farrell, Darius Leonard, Sky Moore, Andre Stoddard. Now, with Clemson, I put Cleveland Farrell in there because he's had a great year. You could have put Christian Wilkins as a second. You could have put maybe Austin Bryant in there as a second for them. I don't know. It was a hard call there. I just thought Farrell statistically of them all had the best year. When you just look at it in terms of sacks, tackles for loss, total tackles, he's really had a great year.
It's almost like you have to put the Clemson defensive line as one entry. The guys are attached by the hip. There's no main character. This amoeba-like thing is what creates the football dominance of Clemson, if anything, is that D-line working in concert.
I could have put Hayden Hurst in there for USC. He's got 3 write-in votes. Christian Wilkins has 2 write-in votes. I don't know. I didn't want to split it up too much, and I thought, Bentley's a quarterback for South Carolina. You have to, and he's had a good year. I don't think he's had a great year, but he's had a good year, respectable year, worth mentioning in this particular poll. Then Sky Moore, of course, the heart and soul of the Gamecock team, in particular the defense, Will, and hard to overlook him when you're talking about a player of the year in the state. Darius Leonard from South Carolina State, another one I put on the list. I mentioned Andre Stoddard, the running back from Wofford. So, I tried to pick out the top players from the top teams who had the best seasons in the state this year and make that list from that.
It's odd, Corn, because when you're making a lot of these, season-ending lists and you're seeing kind of the swath of college football just nationally, you don't see a lot of Clemson Tigers on this list because I think this team has a lot of evenly distributed success, which is, I think, one of the reasons why Clemson has risen to the kind of hierarchy that they have, because when you think about the way that they've played this season, it's been a different person every game. It's been a different phase of the game every game, whereas, for certain other teams, they'll have 1 or 2 guys who most of their success grinds through. I would say, Kelly Bryant certainly has to get some recognition just because of the fact that not much really was expected of him. We were expecting a possible jockeying for position when it comes to the three-headed monster at quarterback for Clemson between he, Sarah Cooper, and Hunter Johnson. Not only did Kelly Bryant win it outright, he won it convincingly. and helped Clemson get back to that same high level. I mean, I think you could even extend it out to the running back quartet that Clemson has between Feaster, ETN, CJ Fuller, and Adam Choice, if you want to combine them all as one, because that is one phase of this game and phase of this team that I think has carried Clemson about as consistently throughout as anybody has.
Well, I go back to what I said before, and that is they don't get the football if that defensive line don't create those 3-and-outs, 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 so the offense can have a rhythm. So I think everything starts, Corn, with that linchpin, and their starter switch are those guys up front on the D-line.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're right. We could have put them in as a group and say, pick these guys, vote for these guys if you want. But I went more with the individual side of things. Just thought that was the way we wanted to do it. Hey, I just saw myself on Tampa TV. They just local TV station that was out shooting and they arrived today. Caught me in what's called a cutaway as they were editing the film together, and they showed the Gamecock media contingent standing over to the side, waiting for the Gamecocks to get off the bus. And gosh, the more I look at myself, the more I realize I have missed a career in television. I really think that I missed an opportunity.
I'm bookmarking these comments for the next time you accuse me of any kind of vanity. I'm bookmarking those.
Well, the only camera you have to not worry about is one shooting your license plate, committing a traffic violation.
The next time I accuse you of not being vain will be the first time.
Wow.
Okay?
Nuts. That's very nuts.
There's nobody I know who likes looking at themselves more than you do, but that's a story for another day.
Probably you, I would say. You just sat here on our live statewide radio network, literally admiring yourself on the TV. That's exactly what you just did.
Well, I mean, do you think Tom Cruise admires himself when he watches a movie? You think Paul Newman used to stare hard at himself when he looked at himself in the movies? I mean, I think it's only.
I think Tom Cruise is like Barry Sanders in that he hands the football to the referee. He acts like he's been there before.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Michigan arrived as well. Saw video of the Michigan team getting off their bus, so they are here too, and everybody will get back to work now. Tomorrow, we'll have a post-practice media session with the Gamecocks. They are practicing at Jesuit High School in Tampa, and we'll have an opportunity tomorrow to talk with some of the players. Then, let's see, my days are running together. Thursday will be the head coaches' pregame press conference, and the only time the two head coaches are together. The Buccaneers have a home game on Sunday at Raymond James Stadium. So typically you'd have the coaches together at the stadium for a get-together, and now they can't do that because there's a game the day before, and it's going to be, fascinating to watch them turn that stadium around from the Buck Stadium to the Outback Bowl Stadium within about, that game will end around 4. The next game will kick off at noon. They won't have a whole heck of a lot of time. I mean, they've done it before. I'm sure they're pros at it, but they're going to work that crew to death getting that thing ready for New Year's Day. Okay, we'll be right back to hear from Muschamp here on Sports Talk.
Hey, Brian. Brian, you there?
I'm here.
I might want to call you just because I'm having a hard time with my connection coming back to me in hearing every word that comes out of Phil and Pro's mouth. So I might want to just call you off the air and just have you put me on hold so I can use that as a monitor, because I cannot hear worth a life of me coming back to me. I'm getting like every other word.
Okay.
Okay. So what is the off-air number again?
The guest line?
Yeah.
790-4315.
What's that?
790-4315.
Okay. I'm going to call that, and I'll have you put me on hold here. It's me. Yeah, just leave me on hold.
Sports Talk from Florida, somewhere in Alabama, and in the heart of South Carolina. We got it all covered for you here on Sports Talk. It's a big week with the Gamecocks in Tampa, 75 degrees, with the Tigers heading towards New Orleans, where it's not supposed to be too bad, I don't think. Plus, they play the game in a dome, so they won't have any problems there. And, of course, the issues remain in the Palmetto State with the cold weather moving in. So, you know what? Ray Tanner said they're hoping about 15,000 Gamecock fans are going to make their way down here to Tampa, and maybe even more. That's just based on their sales of tickets. Many more people will buy tickets here at the site, so that could increase the take from a Gamecock standpoint. I'd imagine there'll be more Gamecock fans here than Michigan. But, you know, if you're looking for something to do, you want to get out of the weather, come on down to Tampa. It's a wonderful city. This is one of my favorite cities because really the weather is pretty nice here pretty much all the time. And you've got the waterfront and the ocean and everything else that you could ever want to have fun with. So come on down and take in the ball game on New Year's Day. If you come in on the weekend, you can watch the Bucks and the Saints play. We'll talk with Mick Mixon later on, because that's a big game for the Panthers. Great win for the Panthers. An ugly performance, but they won on Sunday to keep their hopes alive for winning the division. They've clinched a playoff spot. Zach Willis will join us as well after the top of the hour. Our 1st and 10 with Zach tonight, breaking down the two big bowl games. But the Gamecocks are here. They arrived at their hotel a little bit after 2 o'clock after the flight in from Columbia. We were there along with some other of the wonderful media members that cover the Gamecocks from Columbia and some media members from the Tampa area. And Muschamp, shortly after getting off the bus, talked with us about being here in Tampa and getting his team ready to take on that Michigan squad.
It was good to get a little downtime with the Panthers game with Jackson, Witt, and Carroll. We had a good time on Sunday. The Panthers had a big win. But we're ready to get started, back with our walkthrough today and a normal week of practice starting tomorrow.
You get a sense from your players how they're handling the time off as well? I know for you, maybe a little bit easier, but can you get a sense from the players?
Well, knowing we just got down here, I haven't spent a lot of time with them, but I thought we really handled the week in Columbia really well. We got 7 practices in there, and I was very pleased with the progress we made.
Everybody able to stay healthy in those practices?
Right now, yeah, I think we ought to be good to go. I'll probably know more tomorrow exactly on that. Rico's a little slowed, but I think he's going to be okay. A.J. Turner's fine. Sherrod Green was fine. Shy was fine. Who else? That was it from the last ball game. Rico was the only one that I thought might be a little questionable.
Is Jalen Dickerson been practicing, and how is he?
No, he's not. He's not been cleared to practice, but he's doing extremely well. He's here at the bowl game, and they feel really good about his progress and feel like he should be cleared before spring.
Will Brian Freeman call the game from the box or stay on the field?
He'll be in the box.
Will that be different for him? Or how will that change for him?
Well, it's the first time he's called a game, so yeah, it's obviously be different. And then it's not a whole lot of difference being in the box on the sideline. Obviously, in the box is a lot calmer environment. You're able to see things a lot better, from that standpoint and from an adjustment standpoint. But we've got people assigned on every snap where their eyes need to be as far as making sure we're getting the correct information about different looks that we're getting.
How sharp would you say Jake looked in practice in Columbia working with his dad the way he has been?
Well, I think Jake's looked really good. I don't feel like he's not looked well all year. I think he's a sophomore in college, second year as a starter. I think he did some really good things this year.
How does the week of practice unfold for you? Did you get game planning specifically very early on, or do you work towards that goal?
Well, we got really one extra day of practice for a normal game week, which we'll utilize tomorrow. A lot of good work. But we've already got the game plan in. Now we're going to go back through it again. That's sort of what I've been used to being around as an assistant coach and as a head coach, and it's worked very well for us.
Anybody not make it back from the break?
Should be good.
How many? It is bowl week. How do you feel about this matchup with Michigan?
Well, again, I think you start with their front 7 defensively. I mean, they're extremely talented, very well coached. It's a little different matchup for us for our defense versus their offense. It's a lot of the 2-back looks that they give, the hard play actions they give off of that. So we got our work cut out for us, but I think I like our approach. The guys focused when we've practiced and handled ourselves extremely well. But again, we need to have another good week down here to get prepared for the game.
Outside of BMAC, how many serious conversations have you had with potential OC candidates?
Multiple.
Is Terry Gujar physically able to play?
He has not been cleared at this time.
Is it concussion protocol? I don't want to get into
all that. He just hadn't been cleared.
When you look at Michigan's defensive front, who really impresses you the most?
Well, Hurst 73 stands out. Rashawn Gary 3, Bush 15, the 10 and the 15, the defensive end. Those 4 guys. But they're, Phil, they're extremely active. They give you a bunch of different looks. You're going to get some 3 down. You're going to get multiple stack looks, pressures, very aggressive in what they do. And we're going to have to win some 50-50 balls down the field. At the end of the day, they're going to play a bunch of, bump and run man-to-man. And when you play against teams like that, you got to win down the field.
Will Muschamp from his visit with the media earlier today here in Tampa. And the Gamecocks, just watching them coming off the bus and all that, they had a pretty serious look to them. I know it's the first part of the week, and that doesn't really mean anything. But I think that they've come down here with business on their mind. Yeah, they want to have a good time, and they want to get their share of gifts and things of that nature, which they've already received some of that stuff. But I think they want to come down here and get that 9th win, take a big step forward from last year, get a win over an opponent that will open up a few eyes around the country. You beat Michigan on New Year's Day in a bowl game, and people take notice of that, guys. And that's the beauty of playing a big-name opponent. Even though they're an 8-win team, Michigan is, they're not the national power that people are used to seeing out of Michigan. It's still Michigan. It's still Harbaugh. It's still the striped helmets and all the tradition. That kind of win, even without some humongous, phenomenal play like Clowney had in 2013, just beating them is going to give South Carolina a huge boost in the offseason, especially when they go into their offseason workouts.
Well, Corn, it's interesting because looking at this game and looking at the way that the Gamecocks have played over the course of this year, I feel like the Clemson game almost makes them feel a little bit misunderstood, don't you think? Just because I know, or the Clemson loss rather, makes them look misunderstood because from the standpoint of where Clemson sits, they're obviously playing for things that are much, much beyond what South Carolina is. But what South Carolina is playing for is they're playing for something that is progress. They want progress. They want to step forward, and they can really step a real fork and a real pitchfork into a step forward with a big victory here against Michigan.
Well, for the seniors, I think it's important because I think Sky Moore probably is the only one that's been there when the program was at what people would conjecture to be their zenith when they won the 3-11 win victories. And for these seniors, they've been at the zenith, they've been at the nadir, and now they're rising back up. They would just like to close out their college career with a victory. For South Carolina, not only do they want to show progress going forward, but also they got to take advantage of Tennessee and Florida of flushing coaches out and see if they can build on this and make some positive momentum as they go forward and work toward threatening Georgia, which now seems to be the ogre of the East as Alabama has been to the West.
So here is the big question, I think, for South Carolina moving into this game. I don't think it's an offense that's going to create fear on the South Carolina defensive side. I think those guys will go into the game thinking we can handle Michigan offensively, their offense against the Gamecock defense. Michigan will try and line up and power you and run over you with their big linemen and array of backs, and they do have some big receivers. The question is, this is something we'll discuss coming up after the break. The question is, can the Gamecock offensive line handle Michigan's defensive front? They couldn't handle Clemson's defensive front for 60 minutes. Maybe for a few minutes they kind of held their own there about the first half of the first quarter, and then it kind of got away from them. This is an equally good, I'm not saying as good, but a very good defensive front. Let's talk about that when we come back.
Does he not have any recruiting?
I don't know. I'll ask him. Hold on. Yeah, he's going to do recruiting.
What do you say?
He said, yeah, he's going to do recruiting. There's nothing scheduled in this block, but he's going to do recruiting.
Gotcha. Make sure to have him, again, kind of telegraph where he's going with me just because, again, I'm dealing with a bad monitor.
Say it again, Will.
Kind of telegraph when he's going to go to me and when he's going to go to pro just because I'm dealing with a bad monitor coming back my way.
Okay.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
Just to catch you up on the bowl action today, one game is complete. Utah all over West Virginia, 30-14. Duke is beating Northern Illinois 26-14. Kansas State and UCLA coming up later on tonight. The bowl activity continues tomorrow. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, 4 games, including, of course, the most anticipated bowl game of the year, Texas and Missouri. It's the old renewal of the Big 8 showdown, Southwest Conference showdown. Back in the good old days, Will, your Missourians going up against the old big guys from Texas.
I tell you what, I'm licking my chops for that one.
Must be an offensive explosion in that game. I can see 90 points scored in that game tomorrow.
Don't you want Tom Herman to go down? I mean, you hate Tom Herman.
I have no personal feelings toward Tom Herman, one way or the other. I thought it was a bad. I thought it was a bad diss that he had for USC, and whatever comes his way comes his way.
It's just us. It's just us. It's just us in the state of South Carolina. You can tell us.
Well, and that redhead you got. I saw the picture that you posted on Twitter of yourself talking about being vain. Who posted a picture of yourself from your?
I was bragging about our setup,
and I saw this redhead in the background. I thought you were traveling alone.
There's no redhead in the background. You also should know.
Anyway.
You know that I have a say no to redheads policy.
Back to Gamecock offensive line, Michigan defensive line. Will, how do you see it playing out?
Gamecock offensive line, Michigan defensive line.
That's the question.
I feel like the Gamecocks offense needs to kind of go back to some of its roots. Play the quick game. They need to do a lot of things on the boundary. I think there's enough from what they do well offensively to get Michigan off balance. I think that if they can go outside with some quick screens, some flats, things of that nature, that will help the Gamecocks keep Michigan off balance.
Mm-hmm. And the I guess the speed sweep, I could see them inserting Turner into the 2-back set and then shifting him into a position to run the sweep. And either you fake it or you run it and then just keep Michigan off balance. So I know they've been acclimating to the weather, but Corn, you got a feeling that if you're South Carolina, you got to make it a fourth-quarter heavyweight fight. Maybe those big ogres get dragging when that humidity starts to kick up. If you can stay in the football game, stay on schedule offensively.
Yeah, possibly so. I mean, do you think, it's going to be in the 70s, maybe touching 80 a day or two down here? Do you think that kind of works to the Gamecocks' favor, or do the Michigan guys come down here and like, whoa, this is great? 5 feet of snow back in Ann Arbor. We're down here in the sunshine on the beach, and this is going to be great to play in.
Yeah, it's great when you're on the beach, but it's not as great when guys are locking face mask to face mask. And that's why it's really tantamount, Will, for South Carolina to have sustained drives. Enough of these 3-and-outs. Keep Michigan's defense on the field. What does that mean? You have to be creative, but whatever you have to do, if it's running the football or design short passes that are de facto running plays. But whatever you do, see if you can sustain some drives, especially early in the contest against this Michigan defense.
Well, I know that Michigan's internal temperature is going to change, but one thing that will not change is their DNA and pounding the football and setting football back 30 or 40 years. That's just in their DNA. And I think from Michigan's standpoint, they are built to do one thing and one thing well, and that's run the football. The Gamecocks are built to do some different things well. They haven't necessarily shown that out and borne that out over the course of this season, but in my mind, they need to get back to what they do well, and that is using the team speed, using both sides of the field and the middle of the field and using Hayden Hurst. If they can get those things going, they can have some offensive success against the Wolverines.
You hit the hot button, Hayden Hurst. Linebackers around the country have not seen enough of this guy, especially Michigan, and he could find himself in some advantageous situations as far as being isolated on a linebacker and may get behind that Michigan defense.
Well, one thing I wonder about too, and we asked this of Muschamp, you may have heard it, and he said, watch the game or come to the game, talking about strategy. And Ohio State had, they hurt Michigan a lot with the quarterback running the football, predetermined runs by the quarterback or scrambles out of the passing game that Barnett turned into big pickups for Ohio State. Now, I know that you can't put Bentley in the same category as that guy in terms of being a running quarterback, but we have seen when South Carolina has incorporated Bentley in the predetermined pre-call quarterback runs, they've had success, and it's helped the offense overall. Why wouldn't you apply that, Will, in this offensive strategy against Michigan?
Because I just don't know if he's good enough doing it. That's my only question with him, is that he doesn't have like Kelly Bryant has that gene in his head where he knows that if he needs to, he can make a play with his legs. I don't know if Jake Bentley's wired that way. He trusts his arm. And to be brutally honest, his arm is the better weapon than the legs. Yes, he does have the ability to sometimes scoot, but I don't know if he has that decision-making part of his brain where he can know when to run, when to pull it down, and when to throw it.
Well, they need a big game out of Bentley. Now, in the bowl game last year against a pretty lousy defense from South Florida, I think we all know that, he had a phenomenal game. And Deebo Samuel had a phenomenal game. I mean, it was pitch and catch all day long. Not going to have that kind of luxury in facing this defense against Michigan. I think they're going to come up and press the Gamecock receivers right at the line of scrimmage and see if their front four can handle South Carolina's offensive line and put pressure on Bentley with 4 guys, maybe 5.
Did you see what Texas Tech did to them this year?
Yeah.
They were jokers.
In that game, by the way, I felt like a genius. I took the over.
You and the rest of the world.
I just think when you look at it, an athlete that we talked about, 2 athletes in this game that have to have really good games for South Carolina. Hayden Hurst, I think, is one because I think he can – if they get him isolated on a linebacker, that could mean trouble for Michigan. I think if he's totally healthy, I think A.J. Turner, again, is a guy who hits the hole very quickly. You give him a hole, he can crack it. Now, his durability is going to be at question because you're talking about 185, 190, but he's a guy that can hit the hole. If he hits the hole and he's got a good running game, then the other 2 backs come in, Tyson Williams, who's been on and off the shelf this year. I think he's ready to show he's ready to take a big part in the running game. But I think at some points in this football game, they have to be stubborn with the run to set up the pass.
I have a text in here from a listener predicting Michigan 27-10 over the Gamecocks. I don't know that either team will score in the upper 20s. I would see something more along the lines of 20-17, 17-14, one of those kind of games.
They might not score 20 between the 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's what is the over-under, like in the 40s? I haven't checked recently. It's like in the 40s?
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, again, if you're South Carolina, you got to be able to deal with the defensive front of Michigan. South Carolina's offensive line, it's a veteran group now. They're healthy. They've been together now for the better part of the last half of the season since Bailey got back healthy. And, you made a good point. I mean, you can't shake the memory of the Clemson game from your thoughts when trying to evaluate South Carolina. They can't be that bad. They're not the joke that they showed against Clemson. They are a much better team, and I think they'll show that against Michigan. For some reason, they freak out when they play Clemson. Of course, you got to give Clemson credit, too. Okay, we're back after the top of the hour break.
They wet their pants when they play Clemson. No corn. There's no rum in it.
Didn't say that.
What'd you say?
I said he didn't ask.
So I've been switching my monitor back to you so I can hear you. I can just sometimes I don't know what it is. It just I can hear you fine in the breaks, but once I get him, I don't know what it is. If it's just our internet's not strong enough back there, or mine's not strong enough here. Yet I'm sounding fine coming back to you, aren't I?
Yeah, you sound fine. When Pro is talking, can you hear him fine?
No, I cannot hear you guys coming back to me clearly. Is the
Okay, so I
problem
was wondering if it
on
was
the
just Will or if it's both of them. Okay, I got you.
what's that?
I was wondering if it was just Will you couldn't hear coming back and forth, or was it Pro and Will that you couldn't hear?
No, I can't hear anything coming back to me cleanly. That's why I've been using the monitor when we're on the air. I've been using the phone when I'm on the air. Basically, I Google voice dialed y'all's phone number from my computer, and I've been listening through there. But I got to mute myself in my ear to talk, or else it's an echo.
Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got
So
you.
that's why I've been asking, that's why I've kind of been like repeating questions, just because I want to make sure that I'm muting myself so that I'm not stepping over anybody.
Well, it sounds natural, so it doesn't sound like you haven't been
Well,
listening. It sounds
sounds
natural.
natural. It sounds natural because I'm a professional, Brian, and I'm just letting you know that
I see. I wouldn't.
it is an intense exercise right here. I'm gonna earn that beer tonight. Also, tell Corn the weather in New Orleans is supposed to be freaking lousy. This is the weather forecast. Wednesday, 48 and rain. Thursday, 50 and clouds. Friday and Saturday is supposed to be awesome. Sunday is supposed to rain and get to the low 30. And then Monday for game day, it's going to be 45 in the morning and then 25 at night. So, F you all with this great weather BS. Yeah, I said it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, you couldn't hear me before. I muted
No,
it so
I
so
couldn't.
nobody could hear us going over the air. So I guess you couldn't hear me when I muted it.
What's that?
I muted the Hangout so nobody could hear when I was talking to you,
Oh,
but you couldn't hear me.
I couldn't hear you.
Calling Zach Willis.
Mm. Now, what you get is not a test. I'm rolling to the beat. Man, boogie say up jump. Boogie, so.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
It is indeed Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from Florida, from Alabama, southern part, heading towards New Orleans, and from the capital city, Columbia. Glad to have everyone together. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas. And let's welcome in for another visit, 1st and 10, with Coach Zach Willis here on Sports Talk. Maybe the most important 1st and 10 of the season. Well, maybe the one before the USC-Clemson game was very important since it was the big rivalry game. But now we're talking bowl games, and we're talking New Year's Day. We're talking USC-Michigan and Clemson Alabama. First of all, happy holidays. Hope you and yours had a wonderful Christmas yesterday. And now I know you're looking forward to January 1, sitting back and watching some great football.
I am, Phil. Happy Hanukkah to you, and I hope everybody out there is having a great holiday season.
Sounds like it. I think people had a great weekend, great long weekend. Many are still on the break, and but we're not. We're back at work, and we're getting at it and looking forward to the ball game. So I want to ask you the question we were kicking around in the last segment. You being an old offensive lineman yourself, how do you think South Carolina's offensive line will do against Michigan's defensive front?
Well, I think, Phil, it depends on the game plan. Now, if they're smart, they're going to focus on tempo and execution. And I'll explain that quickly. They need to wear Michigan down in that heat. They will succumb to the heat. I believe I coached Michigan State. We had the great pleasure of playing Alabama in the Capital One Bowl and melted in the second half. I don't know if we had a chance anyway, talent-wise. But the tempo and execution, getting those Big Ten linemen running sideline to sideline, and pray for a hot, hot day. And this ball game will be South Carolina's in that way.
Well, it's supposed to be pretty warm all week, and I think New Year's Day around here is supposed to be in the 70s. Maybe some humidity coming in off the bay. We'll have to wait and see. But if that's the case, and you're talking about a new offense with McClendon to some degree, not a completely remade offense, but some new ideas. And one thing we're hearing in the bowl camp, Zach, is a faster tempo, and McClendon's really kind of pushing the button there to make these guys go faster.
Well, he's got the perfect guy in Bobby Bentley to help him, because no high school up-tempo offense was ever more effective than his Burns teams. I remember Trey Elder, who's now a high school coach himself, running that thing to perfection, Willie Corn, you name it. And that's all they need to do. They need to throw the bubble screens. They need to go sideline to sideline in the first quarter, use their speed, make Michigan run sideline to sideline, defend the entire field, especially outside the hashes. They do that, Michigan will get tired, and then they bring Big Williams in there and pound him. They got two good running backs, as we know, and establish a running game, run Bentley a little bit. I think will be a really effective thing. J.T. Barrett had great success even on the back knee against Michigan. And I think that South Carolina's got some winning game plan for them is to use the elements to their advantage.
So you would expect, Zach, that there would be the quick game. There would be a lot of the screen stuff and a lot of the stuff that I think we'd been wanting to see from South Carolina all year. I know that they took some of that stuff out of there when Deebo Samuel was not involved, but to me it seems like that stuff has been lacking from South Carolina's offense. You expect a comeback for those things.
I mean, I hope we see it. I think here's what we're going to see, Will. We're going to find out if the offensive coordinator was a problem or not in this ball game. We're going to see, look at the protections. Have they changed? Have they made the basic improvements they need to, and get back the basics in the spread offense where you use the pass to set up the run? Especially Michigan is the perfect opponent to do this to, because you can't substitute conditioning with temperature where temperature figures in. I mean, either you got it or you don't at this point in the year, and you can't go back and grab it. And Michigan's not going to have it. It's not their climate. It's not their area.
Relationship notwithstanding, Zach, a lot of times I did not think that Jake Bentley looked relaxed in football games, even the games they won. Erase the relationship. What does Bobby Bentley, in your mind, do for a quarterback when he talks to quarterbacks? What is his special recipe?
Well, to give you an idea and taking the relationship out of it, I talked to Bobby when I worked with Kirk Cousins at Michigan State, and Kirk was reason his draft stock dropped was because he's taken him 4 times because he was high strung. And they remind me of each other, extremely cerebral. We got to get him to quit thinking about the last mistake, and I think that's what he's doing, and pressing. And don't worry about your last mistake. Play each play one play at a time, and realize one play ain't going to win or lose the game. Although we know as the game winds down, that could be the case. We don't want him thinking that way, and that's the approach Bob and I talked about years ago. I don't know what he's going to do with it being his own son. Hopefully nothing changes, and that settles him down. But that's the formula pro. One play at a time, keep him in his comfort zone. We would always ask Kurt, I'd say, what do you like? What do you want Coach Treadwell to call? Because when he believes in the play, guess what? Kids tend to make plays work that they believe in, even if they're not schematically the very number one choice on your board as a coach. That confidence is huge, and a great point by you once again.
Don't make his head swell. 1st and 10 with Zach Willis here on Sports Talk. You mentioned Barrett. I mentioned Barrett earlier, too, in relation to how much Bentley should run the football, predetermined calls, things of that nature. They had some success with that a little bit early or throughout the year when they went to it. Do you think they'll go back to more of that? And after seeing how Ohio State and the quarterback, I know it's a different animal at quarterback, different style of quarterback. He's not the thrower really that Bentley is, but he's a much better runner. But do you take anything from that if you're McClendon and insert more called quarterback runs against that defense?
If it was me, Bentley's good enough, okay? You don't got to be J.T. Barrett. I mean, Ohio State still throws the ball even though he's not a great passer because you have to as part of your philosophy, and it keeps Michigan's defense honest. It's one more guy they got to handle in the run game, one more thing they have to worry about. Yes, I definitely put that in there.
As far as the defensive
is, I'm sorry. I was just going to say the flip of things between the Gamecocks and the Gamecocks and the Wolverines, coach, and the Gamecock defense against that Michigan offense. I think that's a good matchup for South Carolina. I think they can stand toe to toe with Michigan's offense.
I think they can dominate Michigan's offense. Michigan's horrible on offense. Harbaugh does a horrible job managing quarterbacks. They've got another one transferring in now to try to replace the devastation that's been left in his wake. And I'm not trying to, but I'm going to be honest. You got all the weapons in the world for Big Ten purposes, on that offense, and they're horrible. And South Carolina should win this football game. But philosophically, psychologically, those kids at Michigan don't know whether they're coming or going. And I don't analyze them a lot, but what I saw, bad. And maybe they work it out. What South Carolina's got to hope for is that they don't. But the matchup is there. You got to put the checkbox in the Gamecocks' favor when it comes to Michigan's offense versus their defense. And that's a quick answer. Obviously, that's a juicy comment, but it's the truth. I mean, they're anemic on offense, especially quarterback.
Do you expect them to go more at the with the run, or do you expect them maybe to try and change things up with the extra couple of weeks to prepare?
Well, with Harbaugh's he's a walking distraction from going to Italy, making kids practice on spring break in Florida when they're in Michigan and saying that's going to be fun. You don't know what he's going to do. The smart money is you prepare for a power run game like he had at Stanford. If he harkens back to his days with the 49ers winning the Super Bowl, his days at the 1 year at Stanford where they were awesome, they ran power football. And that's what Michigan kids, it's in their DNA. And, that's where they could keep themselves in the game and wear Carolina's defense down. But the key is, will he do that? That's what we have not seen so far. And I'm not nearly as informed on Michigan, but from what I have seen, they just.
All right, hang on, Zach. Hang on. We're going to come back and let you finish up and talk about Clemson in a moment.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, visiting with Zach Willis, 1st and 10 here on Sports Talk. Coach, go ahead and finish up the comments you were making there as we hit the break.
Well, basically, I do think that Michigan, I want to say this, I think what they'll try to do is probably come at Carolina with a power run if they're smart, and then get behind them on play action. But other than that, and based on the greatest football mind I know, my father-in-law, Tommy Ratliff, I'm not trying to be hard on Harbaugh, but, Michigan's offense has been anemic. I'm not trying to put pressure, but facts are facts. And I just think that Carolina has a great opportunity to get the win over a big-name program here.
Yeah. And go 3-1 against Michigan, of all people, the winningest team in college football. Yep. The Gamecocks could go up 3-1. Before we switch gears to Clemson, Alabama, I know you've watched a lot of football over the holidays, the bowl games, seen some of the big offenses out there and some of the name offensive coordinators. Have you seen anybody that's impressed you that you think Muschamp should hire? Is there somebody else that you haven't seen yet on TV he should hire? Forget Bobby Bentley. I know you think he should be the guy, but he's not going to hire Bobby Bentley. Or maybe it'll be Brian McClendon, but is there somebody outside that if you were Muschamp and were doing the hiring that you would say this is the guy?
Well, I would do this, first of all, and I hate to say this, but, you need to look at your cross-state rival there and the profile they've used, guys like Chad Morris, Jeff Scott, people like that are very, very successful no matter what the level is. Maybe they don't have the name or the pedigree, or they don't have the right father and go that route. As far as a particular guy, at this point, I have honestly feel, ask me in a week, because I hadn't been thinking about it in that vein. I don't know what's wrong with Bobby. He was good enough to come there and bring his son there to play for you. And to the everyday man, me, which, I'm an everyday guy, just happen to coach ball. You got a pretty good guy right there. And I'll have a relationship with him, yes, but I'm being objective too. I don't know where they go. And I want to see what their offense does feel to make sure this guy was the problem. Or is the fact that we got a head coach that doesn't know offense, because some of the pass protections, to be blunt, should have never got off the drawing board. They should have never got into the playbook that they were running this year. That's how bad it was. And obviously somebody told him, or he figured it out himself. But as far as pitching a name, and I'm not saying Bobby's the only guy, because there's a lot of qualified people out there, but you need to get somebody that can recruit the state of South Carolina too in the package, like Ellis Johnson was for Spurrier, who got Jadeveon Clowney, or Brad Lawing, who signed Lattimore, who were difference makers and trendsetters in recruiting, so that you get that domino effect that we all love to get in that state, which Clemson has by the throat right now. You've got to break that hold some way. And in addition to the staff, recruiting should come before coordination. That's my philosophy, my belief. Guess what? You can call a sorry play, but if you got an Alshon Jeffrey, you can just throw it up in desperation and he'll make the play.
As far as the Clemson Tigers are concerned, Zach, obviously playing Alabama, playing in the college football playoff semifinal. In my mind, this is not your father's Alabama. This isn't even your grandfather's Alabama. I think that Alabama comes in, I don't want to say they're depleted, but I don't think that they're as nearly as strong as they've been over the last couple of years. And I think Clemson comes in with a new scheme and a new scope of things, running the football and also playing very balanced offense. How do you see this matchup?
Wilson, I don't know where you got you from, but you're smart, because the rest of the country, and maybe me and you, agree. They disagree with us. Alabama is depleted, especially at linebacker. But the key in this ball game is philosophy. Last year, it was kill Deshaun Watson at all costs, headshots galore, tried to concuss him, get him out of the game. They couldn't, they lost. And Saban knew that going in. Not saying it was dirty. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying it was football. And they kept the targeting flags in their pockets and let them play. Deshaun Watson proved how great he was. Alabama, coming off that Auburn game, got exposed. Okay? Now, they have an axe to grind, But the problem is they're coming in as a favorite. So it's hard to grind an axe when Vegas is picking you. And Clemson has the motivation there too. So I feel like Clemson is Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. Clemson being Luke Skywalker here. And you've got to go in and match their intensity early. If Clemson does what they've done in all their big games and they keep Kelly Bryant healthy, I think things look good for them.
While we're on the subject, the Star Wars new movie is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah. Now, I'll see it when it comes out on the Showtime in about 4 or 5 years.
I can tell you this. That my beloved in-laws who we're with right now, that's the only date they've been on in years to see that movie, so it must be pretty good.
Well, Zach, am I hearing you clear? You're taking the Gamecocks to beat Michigan. You're taking the Tigers to beat Alabama?
Bill, why you always got to make me pick somebody? I'm a ball coach, not a Vegas odds setter, but yeah, here's what's got to happen. Definitely South Carolina should beat Michigan. Okay? They've got to screw that up to lose that game. I'll say that, okay? The other one, the Clemson game now, here's the deal. Kelly Bryant's got to stay healthy. They're going to go after him with everything they got, not saying they're dirty, but they're going to, if they start throwing targeting flags, that game will be over in the first quarter because they'll all be out. But they're not going to. Watch the O-line and the D-line in the trenches. Okay. Again, Will likes Clemson's chances. I do too, because Bama's depleted, especially at linebacker. And then can Alabama take advantage of Clemson's coverage inefficiencies and make a big play? I don't know. South Carolina could not. And the key is if they're healthy on the back end, Clemson's defense is hard to beat.
Is there something they can maybe put up in that Syracuse game that would maybe, at least from that perspective, go and be something that Alabama can latch on?
Yeah, absolutely. Trips formation. We talked about it before. Clemson and South Carolina, we saw a huge weakness there. They exposed Mark Fields at that time. They've had some other injuries at corner. If they're healthy, it's a little bit tougher, but Venables he likes a single cover the backside receiver. I would change that if I were them. South Carolina went right down the field in trips. It was hybridized trips. But they trips, South Carolina was successful early and got away from it. Through the push the panic button, got intimidated, panicked, and, of course, you know what happened from there. But Alabama has the poise and obviously the experience in big games to use that formation to their advantage, and they've got a very good offensive coordinator, unlike last year.
Well, other than the cast of characters changing on both sides because of graduation and other things, this is the third game everybody's talking about, Zach, but they're not talking about the fact that those two met in 2 championship games, which means they had a week to prepare. Both teams have had ample time to prepare for each other because they're in the semifinals. Does that make a difference in your mind?
I mean, honestly, I don't think here's where I think the difference could be. Is this is Kelly Bryant's played in some huge games already, but Jalen Hurts is a veteran of this playoff format now. Last year in the game, it certainly wasn't anything he did to lose the game. He played great. There may be a Kelly Bryant. To me, this whole game's all about Kelly Bryant. And if he's steady and solid, and Clemson stays healthy and takes care of the football, they should have a great shot to win this game. I would be leaning their way hard. I am. But what does Alabama do? What does Clemson do? What do they change up? Does Venables see, hey, there's something with this trips formation? Or does Alabama see the Syracuse game and the few drives that they had throughout the year where they struggle with that formation? Who knows? I mean, it's a great question, and really the only way we find out, which is truly awesome, is we get to watch it unfold. But definitely a key in the ball game.
Hey, Zach, we made you work overtime tonight, and we thank you very much. Great stuff as always. You are a professor of football knowledge for us here on Sports Talk, and we'll dial you up again on the 2nd and look back and see what went well and what went wrong. And thank you so much, and have a great New Year's.
As always, it's my pleasure, and God bless you guys, and same to you.
Thank you so much. Zach Willis, 1st and 20. I guess he was sacked once, so we had to make it a 1st and 20 with him tonight. Coming up, Ray Tanner talks with us about a number of different things here on Sports Talk.
I'm guessing that means we're not going to Ryan Carter.
So he may fit the audio in after we do Tanner.
Oh, he might? Oh, okay. I know he wants to do recruiting. Tell him I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on him there. But the fact that we only had one question about Clemson in there, I mean, come on, man. We needed to get more in on Clemson. They are the one playing for the national championship now. So we know.
Gotcha.
I was not sure we'll get the card. I'm glad I did all that work to get it. We'll want to talk about what he has to say. I don't know if we want to talk about what he has to say, but whatever. I'm sure he will. Yeah, I know. He just told me. Why did I work to get to it?
Thanks again to Zach Willis for joining us tonight, giving us some great insight. I'm watching Duke dismantle Northern Illinois, and I'm wondering, guys, how about Zach Roper for offensive coordinator at South Carolina, huh?
Well, I took the gospel of Zach Willis when I said the other night. I said Muschamp wanted this to work in the Outback Bowl because that's two of his top recruiters in McClendon and Bobby Bentley. And so what I'm thinking here in this vein is, since Zach said recruiting comes before coordination, I think that his first choice is to hope this thing works, Corn.
Will you let Will talk before he tears down the hotel room there?
Hey, What's up, guys?
Are you having a problem?
I thought I was disconnected from you guys.
No, you're with us. Unfortunately, you're with us. Yes. No, I was just kind of joking that you got Zach Roper, not Zach Willis. I'm talking about Zach Roper. Zach Roper, the brother of Kurt Roper.
Right.
That would be kind of ironic, I think you would say, if you replaced one with the other. That will never happen. What I was saying was, Duke's having another good offensive day here against Northern Illinois. Let me hit recruiting up. Then we're going to hear from Ray Tanner, who we had a chance to talk with today. Recruiting-wise, things will heat back up here pretty soon. Just looking ahead to what's left for Clemson and USC. Clemson defensive back Brendan Radley Hiles of IMG Academy will come off the board on January 6th as he announces at the Army game, Clemson, Florida State, Oklahoma, and UCLA. Defensive back Matthew Hill of Snellville, Georgia, still committed to Auburn, but will visit Clemson and Auburn, and he'll go all the way to the 7th. Offensive lineman William Barnes of Apopka, Florida, has Florida, North Carolina, Florida State, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, and Clemson on a short list. Defensive back Leon O'Neal, Cypress Springs, Texas, a former Texas A&M commitment, Georgia and Oklahoma on his list as well. Receiver Justin Ross, Phoenix City, Alabama, also has Auburn and Alabama. Offensive lineman Nicholas Petit-Ferry of Tampa has Clemson's interest with Michigan, Florida, Florida State, Miami, LSU, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Alabama. Defensive back Patrick Surtain of Plantation, Florida, Clemson, LSU, Florida, Florida State, Miami, Ohio State, Alabama. Florida State, LSU perceived the favorites. For the Gamecocks, of course, there are 4 unsigned commitments. Defensive back Marlon Character, defensive back Bryce Thompson, receiver Ronnie Jameson, offensive lineman Lamarius Benson. They bear watching. Offensive lineman Dylan Wanham of Tucker, Georgia, USC, Georgia, LSU, the top 3. Also, Auburn is in there as well. Defensive end Dennis Briggs plans an official with the Gamecocks in January. He has the Gamecocks in his Final 4, along with Louisville, Miami, and Florida State. Defensive end Jamarcus Chapman of Rome, Georgia, former LSU and Tennessee commit. USC, Florida State, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Florida, some showing interest. Defensive end Dorian Gerald of Florence, College of the Canyons, Junior College, California, remains a light Tennessee commitment. Looks like the USC interest has waned here. Tennessee, Louisville, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Florida seem the strongest. Defensive lineman John Mincy of Homerville, Georgia, been committed to Arkansas, but did not sign. He's looking at USC for a possible visit. Defensive lineman Rick Sandage, of course, down to USC, North Carolina, and USC, North Carolina, and Georgia. He is down to. 2019 quarterback Ty Evans of Monument, Colorado, former Arkansas commit, will take an official to USC in January. Dorman 2019 receiver Jacoby Pinckney was offered by Florida. Clemson 2019 commit defensive back Joseph Charleston was offered by Florida. USC 2019 offer linebacker Trey Wilkins of Lithonia, Georgia, was offered by Georgia and Ohio State. In basketball, 2019 6'5" Wendell Moore of Concord, North Carolina, has USC in his group of 10 at this particular time. USC Athletics Director Ray Tanner came over to talk with, it was me and really John Whittle from the Big Spur, and there was one other was there as well, I think. So it's 3 of us. Got a chance to grab him after the team checked in at the hotel, and we talked to them about, hey, you're playing on New Year's Day, you're playing Michigan, you got a chance to win 9 games. This is all pretty good.
Well, I think it's great. Now, when Coach Muschamp came on board 2 years ago, we weren't in the best situation with a football program. And if you would have said at that time, 2 years from now, you'll be playing a New Year's Day bowl, I would have signed for it. So we're excited to be here playing against a great team.
I didn't say anything bad, did I?
And the job that Coach Muschamp, his staff, the veteran players on this team, the culture they embraced immediately to give us an opportunity to play on New Year's Day. And we have 8 wins, going for number 9.
What do you see about the foundation that he is building in year 2 in terms of just trying to establish what you need to have long-term success?
Well, it's been very impressive. I think when you're dealing with a football team and the number of people that 100-plus student athletes at the time, it's about detail and attention to detail and the culture that you have. And he established that from the day that he got here. He hit the ground running. And And like I said, the older guys on this team have embraced that, and I think that's one of the reasons we're in the position we are today. Great coaching staff that he has. We continue to make progress.
You mentioned attention to detail. The national pundits, going into both years, Muschamp and this team have exceeded those expectations. Is it just the attention to detail that you think has led the program past that, or is there more to it?
Well, I think attention to detail encompasses a lot of different areas. Do you recruit? Do you have great practices? Do you have a great culture? Are your student athletes, are they involved in everything that you do? And I think it's a total program, and they have a lot of fun. They work extremely hard, but you go back to attention to detail. I think it's all encompassing. And when you get so many things going in the right direction, then you do position yourself for success. It's no guarantee, but you do put yourself in a better position. And that's what Coach Muschamp has done here.
Is there anything about either him or his staff that has surprised you over the course of the first 2 years?
I don't know if anything surprised me from the first day that I sat down with him. His enthusiasm, he's a football coach. It was infectious. And, being a former coach, be honest with you, I was invigorated just from the conversation I had with him initially. I'm like, this guy's the epitome of what a coach is all about. Are there other things that are important besides just being a coach? Absolutely. But he has done those with an A-plus attitude as well. But he'll tell you, I'm just a ball coach, but he's a lot more than that.
What's it look like from a ticket sales standpoint? What kind of Gamecock following are you expecting?
Well, it's interesting. I was having a conversation on the planes. We were headed down here today, and we're hoping that we get close to 15,000 total. A lot of people will buy tickets down here. Sometimes you can get a better seat down here, but we're hoping somewhere between 13 and 15,000.
With the men's, women's basketball teams making the Final Four, women's soccer Final Four, New Year's Day, bowl. What's the state of the program right now? How nice is it to have all this success?
Well, we're in a good place. There's no doubt about it. But you go back to the coaches that we got. You talk about Coach Staley in the national championship, Coach Martin to the Final Four, and Coach Shelley Smith in the Final Four as well, the College Cup, and now playing in the New Year's Day's Bowl. The sustainability of success is challenging, but we got great leadership at the top.
With the new tax laws affecting donations to athletic programs, what do you see the impact at South Carolina in terms of raising money for your program?
I don't know. I think it remains to be seen. I've probably done more reading in the last couple of weeks than I have done since I graduated from college. So I'm trying to find out exactly where we think we'll end up. I don't think anybody knows yet. It's too early to tell. How much effect will it have? Will people back off from buying their tickets? Will they continue to buy? Will we restructure? Will it be a more expensive ticket and less of a seat license? I think a lot of questions to be answered as we move forward.
Yeah, that's going to be something for all administrators and fundraisers in college athletics across the country to deal with, guys. This new tax law going into place, you can no longer write off those contributions. And a lot of people do it simply for the write-off. Now they'll have to do it simply because they want to help their teams.
This is going to be quite the problem, but I'm not sure. I'm trying to look through the corporate level, and maybe they have to probably do more courting with the corporate level, and then maybe some of those private donors may have to give through their corporations by some means or so. But when you deal with tax laws, people tend to know how to skirt them, no matter what the federal government tries to do. It'd be interesting how they pull this one off.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Sorry about that. My monitor was down again.
You good? I just couldn't talk to you while the show was going on.
That's fine. I didn't say anything bad, did I?
No, you're like, hello, hello, hello.
What?
That's how you sounded. You're like, hello, hello.
Yeah. That's all I said?
Yeah, you didn't say like nothing bad.
What? Okay. I lost my monitor, so that's what happened.
That's cool, man. No harm, no foul.
I'm a little mad we didn't get to my piece.
We might not have Mick.
Ball's just outside the 2. The tip of the ball right at the 2-yard line. Play goes right. Burson and Olsen. Olsen lines up on the right. Burson on the wing on the right. Now Burson becomes the wing left side. Newton fumbles the ball, picks it up, dives forward, and scores a touchdown.
The old Fumblerooski almost.
Oh, my goodness. Fumbled it to himself, picked it up, took it right up the middle, and scored.
Sometimes the things just bounce your way, and that happened with the Panthers yesterday as Cam Newton knocked it in for the touchdown. I guess that was 2 days ago. This is Tuesday. Back on Sunday, Cam Newton knocked it in for the touchdown. 2-yard power run after bouncing the ball off the turf, and it was enough to put the Panthers on top of a game Buccaneer team. They didn't play very well at all, didn't have much offense, but just enough. Demir Byrd gave them a boost. 102, 103-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. And unfortunately, Mick, we get the news today that knee injury that Demir Byrd suffered is going to cost him the rest of the season.
Goes on injured reserve, Corn, and that's a big blow to the Panthers. Byrd's star has just really risen. He had a great preseason and then dinged his wrist up and then comes back and authors the 102-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Not just that, I mean, he's a handful in the punt return game and in the slot receiver position as well, so we'll definitely miss him.
Yeah. Did they say exactly the severity of the injury? Obviously enough to knock him out, but I haven't seen if he has like ACL damage or cartilage, ligament. Did they say exactly?
Me neither. Coach Rivera's press conference this morning, all he would say was lower leg injury and injured reserve. Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer pressed him on it. Will it need surgery, Joe asked. Coach Rivera wouldn't take the bait on that. He just said lower leg and injured reserve.
You also got a nice game, speaking of contacts from the state of South Carolina, but Burson out of Wofford came through for you, and I guess you're going to have to rely more on him in the absence of Byrd because things are getting kind of thin for you in the receiving ranks.
Little bit, yeah, you're right, Phil. We got Mose Frazier that we brought back, and, of course, Russell Shepard's supposed to be back this week, which will be helpful. The Panthers like what Kalen Clay can bring, but your point is a good one about Burson. He had that one, though, that went off his hands to Quan Alexander of the Buccaneers, and especially if you don't run 4.3, 4.40, you've got to be that. If you're going to be that Brenton Burson reliable target over the middle, you got to catch, and he knows this, and he said as much. You got to catch the ones that hit you near the hands.
What did you make of the Cam Newton run, Mick, that we heard in the open? Obviously, we're a long way away from talking about Cam Newton not being utilized enough in the run game.
You talking about the touchdown run in the end zone where he dribbled it to himself?
Yes.
Oh, man, sometimes you get a little lucky. Tampa Bay was shrieking that was a bad spot on the Jonathan Stewart fourth down run. Coach Rivera said today he thought it was a bad spot too, but the Panthers were the ones on the short end of it, that it should have been easily a first down. So we got conflicting reports there. But, I mean, how many times do you see, A, Cam Newton mishandle a shotgun snap almost never, B, how many times you see that prolate spheroid bounce true to form and come back right into his hands, and he scooped it up and scored. He looked like J.J. Redick going down the middle of the court.
The offense had its issues. First of all, the thing I love about the NFL, I mean, you know, all things aside, some things that have happened this year has cut into that love for a lot of people. But the thing I do love about it is that even the teams that are out of it, like the Bucks, and it's late in the year, these guys are hurting and they're tired, but they don't, they're not like the NBA where they're tanking games. At least I don't think they are, and trying to improve their draft spot. I mean, those guys are out there trying to win the ball game. They got nothing to play for except football pride, Mick, and the Bucks laid it on the line against you guys. It's what I love about the NFL.
I know, me too. I feel the same way. So now the Panthers go to Atlanta. Now the pressure will be on Atlanta because they've got to win to get in. The Panthers can kind of relax and play that free shot type of a game, a lot like Tampa Bay could this past week, and that's the position you want to be, is not the absolutely have to have this game or else you don't make the playoffs. So all credit to Tampa Bay. Jameis Winston played well. They turned in a winning performance. It's just that the Carolina Panthers were able to squeeze out a victory.
And, of course, if Tampa upsets New Orleans and you guys win in Atlanta, you win the division.
Well, I think, don't we? Yeah, that's true. And then, of course, some other things. If we should get as lucky in Minnesota and the Rams should also lose, I mean, at this point, we could go to L.A., we could go to New Orleans, we could get a first-round bye. It's all up for grabs.
Any talk in the NFL, the guy's scared that Minnesota get a chance to play the Super Bowl at home?
All the tickets are allotted for, though. By the time you get all the corporate bigwigs and the fat cats and the ne'er-do-wells and the riffraff and friends of Phil Kornblut, there won't exactly be a purple storm in there, even if the Vikings make it in.
Hey, I got to ask you this. I had the pleasure of listening to you guys, as I always try to, when I'm driving around on Sunday or working in the yard or whatever. So does Eugene believe when he is talking about one of your players in the first person, does he believe that the player actually hears him on the field? Like when he tells he had some comments for Thompson, the linebacker, and he started calling him by his first name. You got to do this. Does he believe that Thompson can actually hear him on the field and react to what he's the advice he's giving him?
Yeah, Eugene talks to them as if they are wired in via some kind of Star Trek ability to communicate. Cam, I need you to be special. If you don't see what you want, I need you to run. And only Eugene knows what he can hear and what he's got going on between his two ears. But he's unique in the world, that's for sure.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen,
He talks to replay. He talks to replays too, Corn. He'll be saying, oh, when he. I have to remind everybody that it's the radio and we're watching a replay.
You do have one of the noisiest booths in all of broadcast. So between the three of you, which is fine. I may be at the Bucks Saints game on Sunday, so I'll see what I can do for you.
Definitely work your magic.
Well, if I could work any magic, you know what I would have done. The Packers would have beat you, and Rodgers would have played last week, and we'd have won that game. We'd have had a miraculous run, but I think my magic has run out.
Well, it may have run out for this year, but you get to hit the reset button for next year.
Another quick story. I had lunch with a good friend of mine from Charlotte yesterday, who is a Panther season ticket holder. And he told me, he didn't know how many years ago it was, but he had a colonoscopy in the hospital there, wherever he was in Charlotte. And he said he woke up and you were there. He met you after he had his colonoscopy. He didn't know if you had one at the same time or you were there visiting somebody.
No, I perform colonoscopies in the to make extra money.
Yeah. No, I'm serious. We were talking. He tells me this story. I said, well, I'll share that with Mick. He'll get a kick out of it.
Oh, maybe it was my dad had colorectal cancer, so I had to get screened starting in my 40s. And so, yeah, it could have been. I could have been in there for the same reason that he was in there.
You're working on your exit strategy is what you were working on.
Oh, not good. You love my buddy Norm. He's a former bra salesman. So he's got a lot of fascinating stories he can share with you.
Cross your heart. Lift and separate, yeah.
Oh, boy.
All right, Mick. Enjoy your – are you doing a show tonight?
No show this week because of the holidays, but we'll be back next week.
All right, man. Thank you. Good luck. We'll talk to you next Monday.
Appreciate it, pal.
Okay. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks to everybody. And really enjoyed everything tonight, guys. Tomorrow we'll have Gamecock stuff for you from after practice. Will, you'll have the Tigers, correct?
Correct. I'll be at the airport waiting for them.
Sounds good. And Pro will be sitting in the Barca Lounge. You're taking it all in back in the studios. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.